We're elevating some hard truths and we're spending Saturday night with a companion. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Offscreen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Hello and welcome back to Offscreen for another week. We have another handful of movies to talk through. Before that, though, any movie gossip, anything you want to announce, anything you want to mention, Van?
Well, I don't know. I mean, people seem to be sort of to and fro on the on Flight Risk from last week. The Mel Gibson of it all seems to have put people off. And in other news, weirdly, Baby Girl dropped on digital this week out of the blue. No,
that was quick.
That was quick, wasn't it? Although, it's worth noting, next week, we're going to review September 5th, right? Which is the story of the Munich terrorist attack, right? You know that famously Spielberg covered it in the movie Munich. That comes out on Friday here. And in the US, they're actually putting it on streaming on the Wednesday. So, I don't know how Paramount thinks piracy works, but yeah.
Yeah, so I was going to say, that means people can... Money. So does that mean if people change their region, they'll be able to stream it from home? Yeah. So it's a completely pointless exercise.
Yeah, and that's legal. The best part is that is legal. That ain't even piracy. Like, if you're a Paramount Plus subscriber and you've got a VPN, just flick your VPN over and you can... What are you thinking, guys? Nuts.
Yeah. Save it for a couple of weeks at least.
Yeah, although we will talk about a movie later that I went to the Shindig for last night, and what a whale of a time that was. I may have inadvertently contributed to the death of my friend because he was projectile vomiting. He was projectile vomiting like bright hot pink goo by the end of the night. The poor lad.
This sounds like a Barbie premiere.
Stylistically, not that dissimilar, has to be said. Although I had a lot more fun with this movie. I liked Barbie, but I really love the one we're going to talk about later. Anyway, I'll start with a fun one. And I think did I recommend this to you last week?
You did. I'm excited about this one. Like, this is because isn't this by the same director as A Quiet Place?
Oh no, not the same director. It's the producers of
same
Quiet
producer,
Place.
Right?
So, think of it as the B&M Quiet Place.
Okay.
So it's A Quiet Place with altitude. It's called Elevation. It stars Anthony Mackie, who's going to be back on cinema screens in a few weeks in Captain America: Brave New World. Zara, funnily enough, interviewed him, I think, the other day for the junket for that. And he stars opposite Morena Baccarin, the love interest from Deadpool, if you remember her. You know, Vanessa in Deadpool. Yeah. Effectively, what's happened, it's been 3 or 5 years since the end of the world, effectively. A bunch of sinkholes opened up and a bunch of monsters came out and killed everyone. They killed 95% of the world's population. Like, seemingly instantly. And then it was discovered that they can't actually exist. They won't go any higher than 8,000 feet in altitude. So all the survivors just scurry to the tops of all the really high mountains and hills and set up their little communities and everything up there. And with all the resources they can, they go down like in shifts to try and bring back supplies and things. And 3 years after our lead, Anthony Mackie's wife, has been killed on one of these expeditions, his son, who has a breathing condition. He has a lung condition that requires him to use a ventilator. His son is running out of air filters. He's literally got days to live without these air filters. And so our hero has to, bravely descend below the line, as they say, below 8,000 feet, taking his late wife's friend, a scientist played by Morena Baccarin, along for the ride because she thinks that if she can get to her old lab, she might be able to find out more about these mysterious monsters and how they can kill them. Because guess what? They have basically full-blown armor for skin. You literally can't shoot.
Oh, great.
Basically made of what seems like granite or steel. Anyway, like I say, it's called Elevation. Got a clip for you. Have a listen.
We still don't know why above 8,000 feet we're safe. Go, 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 go!
Hunter's last filter burnt out. The hospital in Boulder will have a crate of them.
You're gonna have to go below the line at least a dozen times.
If I don't go, Hunter dies.
They can't be killed, but no one's had a chance to study them. You study something long enough, you can figure out how to kill it.
If it doesn't kill you first.
See, I love the sound of this movie. One thing that's going to get to me,
Go on.
is it ever announced why they can't go above 8,000 feet, these aliens?
I mean, for spoiler reasons, I can't tell you. I really can't tell you.
Oh, okay.
I will tell you, incidentally, that there is a sort of post-credits on this movie that sort of sets it up for a sequel. And it's an incredibly optimistic play because I don't really see there being a sequel. First of all, like I say, it is kind of a knockoff Quiet Place. It's, same producers. I've been calling it, the higher place rather than the Quiet Place. It's literally the concept of it. Quite a stripped down, very lean, punchy, 90 minutes, kind of $18 million budgeted film. It's a cheap and cheerful one. Obviously, they've just gone to the Canadian woods for a few weeks and made this, and it looks the part. It works quite well. It's quite stripped back, very efficient kind of an actioner. I think you'll definitely got on board with this in the same way that you got on board with The Quiet Place, which is, it's a father, trying to doing the survival thing for his family, kind of an idea against monsters, which is a fairly universally kind of accessible concept. If I have a complaint about it, it's mostly that Morena Baccarin's just a bit annoying through it. It doesn't quite work. Hats off to her for trying a very different kind of role, because she usually plays kind of the sultry type. Here she's playing more of a frosty kind of ice queen type with, a lot of snark and, quite clearly a tragic backstory. She doesn't quite fare as well, but I do think Anthony Mackie real chops in this. Like, Mackie, I do rate Mackie as a star. Well, maybe not a star, but as a sort of a budget Will Smith. Effectively, I think he's a better Will Smith, but he comes on, a lot less of a budget. He's also a better rapper than Will Smith, just so you know. So the director of this is George Nolfi, who had previously directed Anthony Mackie in The Banker for Apple TV a couple of years ago, which was, I think, a would-be Oscar contender, and previously directed The Adjustment Bureau. Do you remember that with Matt Damon from 10 or 15 years ago?
Oh, God, yeah. Remind me of...
Yeah, the men in black suits and little hats. And little, pork pie hats. Yeah, that one.
I do remember that.
Guy. Yeah, and he also did... Although it is worth noting that he did also direct the god-awful Bruce Lee biopic Birth of the Dragon a couple of years ago. The one about Bruce Lee's white friend. Because that's the bit of the Bruce Lee story we all want to know. Yeah. Did you have any white mates? No one cares, mate. No. But
I remember you slating that one.
I felt like I could have slated that one without even watching it, to be honest. What an idiotic concept for a movie. This I really like, though. So there's a lot of those Quiet Place type moments where you're just like, oh, what would I do in this same scenario? Kind of like, oh, how would you get out of this? What possible way? I'd have been dead in 5 minutes. Kind of in this kind of a concept. There's a great sequence, for instance, involving those ski lift chairs on cables that you get.
Yeah.
That literally on those, hoping that it gets over the line quick enough, and it really tense, really cool. I really liked it. I don't think it's an amazing movie. I think it is something that belongs where it is, which is it's debuting on Prime Video. I think it did have a limited theatrical in the US, went to digital, and now obviously we're getting it in this country on Prime Video, which is kind of the perfect place for it. So I think Netflix has a Quiet Place, so you can literally hop over to Netflix for a Quiet Place. Then when you finish those, you can pop over to Prime Video for The Higher Place or Elevation, which incidentally also the name of the worst U2 song. Let's be honest. But
what I do want to know before we finish up on this one, obviously, as you said, same director as A Quiet Place.
Oh no!
Does it have? Sorry, producer, I got it around the wrong way again. Does it have the same, I guess, jump scare moments and moments where you're literally on the edge of your seat and going, oh, like the nail through the foot kind of thing?
No, I don't think it quite gets there. Definitely not there. Quiet Place, with the first Quiet Place, I want to stress, I don't think the second one's not as good as the first, and I think the third one, I didn't even finish the third one.
Same.
The day one, I think it was called. I didn't even finish that. But I had all the potential in the world. I just wasn't gripped by it. Wound up turning it off. Didn't have to review it, so fair play. But I don't think this quite gets that level of effectiveness that the first Quiet Place did. Definitely not.
Okay, well, you can make your own mind up, just as I will be, because I do want to watch this. Elevation is on Prime Video now, so you can check it out whenever you like. Right, next then, we're going to look at Hard Truths. We've got Saturday Night to look at a bit later as well, and Companions. So we will see what Van thinks to those in just a minute. Stay there. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen then. Let's move straight into our next movie. So this is called Hard Truths. It is out in cinemas from today. We're kind of moving along now a little bit because this is a comedy, right?
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
Meant to be?
Does it say comedy somewhere?
It says comedy drama.
Right. I do not have a clue where they got it. I will bring this point up. I will swing back to this point in a minute because there has been a weird mention, actually, of comedy with this from somewhere. But I'll get to that as part of the inevitable rant that you're going to have to sit through, and I apologise in advance.
I'll get the popcorn.
Mr. Ball, if I could ask you to be so kind, would you mind reading the plot synopsis from IMDb for us? Just
Absolutely. I mean, it's not very long. It says, ongoing exploration of the contemporary world with the tragic comic study of human strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's the plot synopsis. Okay, I am also now going to say it is written and directed by Mike Leigh. You know, king of the kitchen sink drama, Mike Leigh. Now, me saying that will already tell you, if you know the work of Mike Leigh, you already know whether or not you're going to like this. Now, the actual plot of this concerns Marianne Jean-Baptiste, who is, I would say, middle-aged mum with an adult son, Moses. Husband who's a sort of blue-collar worker, so is Moses, really. And she complains a lot. That's the movie. I'm not even kidding. It's 97 minutes. I couldn't tell you. Well, it doesn't seem to have a plot. It really doesn't. She gets up in the morning, she opens her eyes, and she starts complaining, and then you hear nothing else until the character goes to sleep. And then she wakes up the next morning and just complains. This goes on for more than an hour and a half. Here's a clip.
You can't go in or out of a supermarket without being harassed by those grinning, cheerful charity workers begging you for money for their stupid causes. Why they got to skin their teeth like that? Cheerful, grinning people. Can't stand them. Loitering out there, demanding your hard-earned cash. It's a scam. They're scamming people. Can't trust them. They want your phone number, your email. I asked one of them, I said, why do you want my postcode? I might as well just give you my front door key so you can bruck into my house, teeth out my things, and kill my only child.
Yeah, I did watch the trailer to this, Van, and it's funny you say about the complaining, because instantly I thought it was like another version, a worse version of The Afterlife with Ricky Gervais, except that's funny.
Right, but also Afterlife has a plot.
True.
Right,
yeah,
there's a beginning, middle, and end. Okay. In 1994, there was a film called High Strung. No one has ever seen High Strung. I've watched it to death. My best friend and I watched this so many times growing up. And this is one of the very early movies for Jim Carrey. Like, he filmed it before 1994. And obviously they snuck it out onto direct-to-video the year that he had The Big Three. He had The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura. The greatest run any actor has ever had. So that film literally consisted of future comedy director Steve Odenkirk's Better Call Saul. Steve Odenkirk talking to camera, like in his apartment for one day of his life, just in his apartment, direct to camera, bitching and moaning, like breaking the fourth wall, bitching and moaning. And the whole point of it was that eventually he keeps getting phone calls, and the voice, a mysterious voice on the end of the phone says 7 o'clock over and over. And then 7 o'clock rolls around, there's a knock at the door. Jim Carrey turns up and says, "Hi, I'm the Grim Reaper. I've come to take you. Because you use the words, 'I'd rather be dead,' so often that you've crossed the threshold where we legally have to now take you." Now, what I've just described to you is what would happen if you actually assigned a plot to this. This is unbearable. And I do mean unbearable. I could not get on with this. I mean, it's a Mike Leigh film, so it's not especially well directed. It's, it may as well be a stage play. Maybe it's just got a piece of community theatre. You've got say Marianne Jean-Baptiste, who I know is a very good actress. I watched like 7 or 8 seasons of Without a Trace. I know she can act. I mean, there's a really funny bit where Paul Truman from EastEnders turns up. Remember Paul Truman, Gary Riedel?
Yeah.
He
Oh my
turns
God.
up- he turns up at one stage just to yell at her. And I can't say I blame him. He's my MVP of this movie because he gets to call her a bunch of words that I wish I could. I hated this film. I can't tell you what the point of it is. And I found myself in a really difficult position this week. Because, on the one hand, 4 stars from The Guardian. Oh, amazing, masterpiece. Oh, Marianne Jean-Baptiste. Oh, next level performance. Oh, cheeky and fun, says the critic who shall remain nameless for The Guardian. I've had another friend of mine talk to me about, what a wonderful study of depression. And no. I think it was another friend of mine went on Radio 2 last night, declared this to be one of the films of the week. Oh, tragic comedy, and another Mike Leigh masterpiece. Right, no, I'm sorry, guys. No, I'm sorry. It's wake-up time. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do the tough love thing. Right. The critic circle will not kick you out if you say that something that's boring is boring, or something that's fun is fun. This endless need to throw on a cardigan and gargle canapes is outright sickening. And this patronising piece of crap is just the cherry on top. I have never been more disgusted at the state of British cinema than I was for the 97 agonising minutes that I sat through this fetid turd of a movie. What an honest-to-God waste of time. I would genuinely rather have stuck knitting needles through my eyes. And I'm not exaggerating. I hated this. It has overtaken the just annoyingly overlong perfume commercial that was Maria for me as the single worst attempt at a narrative feature film in 2025. I hated it.
The hard truth of hard truths.
I'm sorry. I really need to get that out. I didn't even unload that. I didn't even unload that one on the therapist this week. I just thought, I'm saving that for Adam. Yeah.
I'll be your therapist this week. It's fine, Van. It's fine. You can not watch it ever again. Delete it from your memory.
Do you know? I wish I could. If I could eternal sunshine that crap from my mind, I would. The things I would choose to remember over that. Like, there are numerous traumas in my life I would retain if it meant getting rid of that. Ugh.
I won't ask you what I would normally ask at this point then, which is, what would you do or what would you change to make it better? Because I already know your answer.
What would I change to make it better? I would invent a time machine, go back
I knew that was coming.
childhood, and strangle him in the crib. That's how much I hated and despised this.
Yeah, I thought you might say you'd...
But, 4 stars from The Guardian, so, obviously it hit its intended audience.
Well, if you want to make your own mind up, of course, you can.
Don't.
Because Hard Truths is in the cinema from today.
Somehow. Don't know how.
Well, we'll see how the takings go on that one. All right. Stay where you are. We've got 2 movies left this time round. We're going to talk about Companion in a bit, but next, Saturday Night. We'll see what Van thought of that one. Stay there. Hello and welcome back to Offscreen. 2 more movies to talk about. We're going to touch on Compassion in a moment, but we're going to Saturday Night now. I know Van's quite excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, this is one of my nerdy things because it's SNL. It's Saturday Night Live. If you're not aware, by the way, for the first season, Saturday Night Live was simply called Saturday Night. And conventional, I don't know if it's anecdotal or not, but the reason that it changed was because every time you said, I'm on Saturday night, like every time a guest said, I'm going to be on Saturday night, no one knew what they were talking about. They assumed they just meant they were doing something on Saturday night. So, and there is actually a moment very early on in the film in which the lead character says, I'm the producer of Saturday Night. And the response is, what, the whole night? That's
Give us
why.
a bit of background about Saturday Night first, because you and I were just talking off air that there's not such a cultural investment in Saturday Night Live here as there was in the States, of course.
No, of course. So this year marks the 50th anniversary of the show we now know as Saturday Night Live, which airs 11:30 Saturday nights on NBC. Filmed at Rockefeller Plaza, 30 Rock, iconic building. I've been there. I've toured the studio.
Been there.
Yeah. Great. It's a fantastic building, and the SNL studio was like going to Memphis or go to Graceland for me. Now, it is the original iconic American comedy variety sketch show. Started in 1975 under the watchful producing of the man who's still running it to this day, Lorne Michaels.
Wow,
Right.
still.
He's still doing it now, right? Little sidebar for you. Lorne Michaels, the producer of Saturday Night Live, is who Dr. Evil is based on. The actual voice of Dr. Evil and how he talks is Lorne Michaels. Like,
Brilliant.
Mike Myers famously took this from Lorne Michaels. Now, say 50 years this year. There's a lot of celebrations going on. We now have a narrative film from director Jason Reitman, son of Ivan Reitman, the late great Ghostbusters director Ivan Reitman. It's also, weirdly enough, stars as one part of its ensemble cast Jason Ritter, son of the late great John Ritter, as well. So there's a bit of a legacy thing going on behind the scenes as well. And what you get here is a real-time ensemble dramedy, effectively, that charts the 90 minutes before the airing of the very first episode of Saturday Night Live in 1975. So we start at 10 p.m. The show's going on at 11:30. Lorne Michaels is famous for the quote, "The show doesn't go on because it's ready, it goes on because it's 11:30." And we literally get to see how that works, like how that happened for the very first time on a night on which, very famously, as the movie tells us, Lorne Michaels simply did not know what the show was meant to be yet. And as he's panicking, trying to get different actors to sign their contracts last minute, to get the lighting rig working after it falls down and nearly kills the staff, after the sound system dies, after person X quits, person B threatens to sue them, after the censor tells them you can't say this, starts red paging the entire script. As all of this is going on, he's also putting up with just this absolute anarchy of his cast, who are all comics of different statures and different levels of ego, which included Garrett Morris, who was a playwright, played brilliantly here by Lamorne Morris from New Girl, as well. The late John Belushi is a character in this, and my very personal favourite, Corey Michael Smith, the Riddler from Gotham, if you know that one, who's playing Chevy Chase. And boy, did they nail the performance of Chevy Chase. So I've got a clip for you. This is Chevy, the fictional, the narrative Chevy, entertaining the Boys Club, who are basically the sponsors who are waiting in the sort of observation room for this show to start.
Ladies and gentlemen. Hi. Who am I kidding? Gentlemen. Jesus, you guys look like the cast of Godfather if it was shot in Alabama. I see some cowboys here. That's a hell of a 10-gallon hat. You look like you're ready for a date with livestock. Welcome to New York. It's quite diverse. If you want to meet black people, go to Harlem. If you want to meet Jews, come to our writer's room. Sir, you look like you're from Ohio. My favorite thing about Ohio. Let me introduce you to our head writer.
I mean, I can see how I would enjoy this. What the bit I don't understand is, before it started and before the first show began, did they not actually know at that point what it was meant to be then?
As depicted within the film, they just simply kept throwing out the scripts and replacing bits. Something that is still a part of the culture of SNL to this day is that there is a big bulletin board that's divided into the 4 acts of the show, and every sketch is a card. And at the start of the show, well, when they go to dress, they do everything. When they go to dress rehearsal, they perform everything. They film everything at the dress rehearsal. So if anything goes wrong with the live broadcast, they can cut to dress, as they say. There's a little bit more trivia I'll give you in a second. But obviously, until literally moments before they go on, do it live, they don't know which of those sketches are staying in. Like, you can have spent a week working on a sketch that will just get tossed out at 11:29. Like, that is very famous part of the culture. And it's worth noting there's another sword of Damocles that hangs over the characters in the film, specifically the young Lorne Michaels, which is that the show only exists because NBC used to run repeats on Saturday nights of The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. You know, long before Jay Leno took it over, and then obviously Conan and the rest is history. Very twisted history, as we said. But there is this idea that Carson, in one sense, felt like he was being replaced and literally phones up to keep threatening Lorne Michaels, who, bear in mind, is a young, like, comedic producer just starting out. He's in his early 20s at this stage. He's played, incidentally, by Gabriel LaBelle, who also played the young Spielberg in Meet the Fabelmans a year or so ago. Say, ensemble cast, really good ensemble cast in there. One that I thought, I'm going to forget his name, aren't I? It's Jonathan Rhys? James Rhys? Oh, God, I can never remember. Matthew Rhys plays George Carlin, right? The late George Carlin. And George Carlin famously is the first guest on Saturday Night Live. He was their very, very first guest and had something of an ego and really didn't get on with the production. The way that it's depicted here absolutely nails what you imagine it has to be like, what that stress is. And we've had enough in the way of interviews with people who, you know, have been and left the show over the years, that this would seem to be a fair representation of the absolute panic going on. Say, supporting cast that includes Willem Dafoe, who's the network executive in charge of, like, giving them telling them at 11:29 whether or not they're allowed to go on for the first time. Are we going to cut to a repeat of Johnny Carson, or are we going to give you the chance? You've also got a brilliant J.K. Simmons as a musical variety host from, like, the studio downstairs, who I will just say at one point introduces a rubber appendage, the like of which you won't forget anytime soon. He just gets this brilliant moment, very reminiscent of Boogie Nights, in which it's the greatest display of ego I think I've seen in ages. But my reason to see the film above all else, really see this for Corey Michael Smith as Chevy Chase. Wow, he got this perfect. Not so much like that, you heard him in the clip. He doesn't sound like he's not doing the voice or anything, but he's just got that mannerism. He's got that narcissism. He's got that arrogance. He's got that sliminess. So perfect. And there is a moment when you see, because obviously the Chevy character goes through something of an identity crisis through the movie, where, as far as he's concerned, he is the star of the show off the bat, and J.K. Simmons' character in particular puts him in his place, rubber appendage helping, obviously. And it is about him, in his sort of subplot, his arc through this is effectively regaining that muster, that bluster, that oomph, sort of towards the end, as he's called on in the moment to kind of step up. Does he have what it takes? And in those moments, when you see him performing as Chevy, he's fantastic. He's nailed the spirit completely. But it's in those more vulnerable moments that you see what's quite clearly a horrible man. Not a pleasant guy. Nobody has ever liked Chevy Chase as a person. Like, I'm willing to bet that even Chevy Chase doesn't like Chevy Chase, given how he's carried on. But it's in those moments of vulnerability he really kills this. So much so, and this is my favourite bit of trivia about this, Chevy Chase apparently saw the movie and told Jason Reitman, "You should be ashamed of yourself. What you've made here is disgusting." So, job well done. Job well done. If Chevy Chase doesn't like it, that just means it worked.
Oh, that's brilliant. What I would like to know is, if for somebody who has never heard of or seen any Saturday Night Live, would this still work?
I think without the cultural attachment to it, it's still an engaging enough look at, well, it's 90 minutes before, the first live TV show. Not the first live one ever, but the first time they did this live TV show. And obviously, history tells us that this kind of became an iconic brand. But because we don't have that cultural, as you demonstrate, we don't have that cultural footprint here for it. It's not a UK, there isn't really a UK SNL fan base. And until social media and YouTube started making SNL clips go viral, or Andy Samberg and The Lonely Island came along, and I think they didn't join SNL until, I want to say, I think it was 2007, 2008, they joined SNL. Until that stuff, like, we never saw anything from SNL in this country. It was just not a thing. Obviously, I grew up overseas, so I had a more of a cultural attachment to it. But it is still to this day an absolute legacy brand. I mean, the episode from this last year with Ryan Gosling hosting that's an all-time benchmark. That was absolutely terrific. I'll send you some sketches, some YouTube clips from that later. Some of them will have you absolutely howling. He was fantastic on there. But yeah, I mean, I loved it. I really loved it. I think if you don't have the SNL attachment, the frenzied drama of it and the sort of biting wit will still get you. They will still get you. And also, we all know Chevy Chase. So you can actually watch this. It's just a really fun dig at Chevy Chase for 90 minutes.
Well, if you do want to watch it, you can, because Saturday night is out in cinemas already. It's out there from today.
Isn't it weird that it's Saturday night, but it comes out on a Friday?
It's on Friday. I know, you'd think
trick.
They would. Yeah, they definitely missed a trick. Definitely there. Right, we've got one last ride for you then. We're going to look at Companion in just a minute. We'll see what Van thought to that next. Hello and welcome back to Offscreen for one last ride. We are going to dive into the movie Companion right now, which is I don't even know whether to trust IMDb now after last time. It says it's a psychological thriller.
I don't know psychological. I don't know if that fits it entirely.
Dark comedy?
Twisted dark horror comedy, I would say. In a sense, with obviously a bit more of an emphasis on drama. In fact, do you know what it's quite close to? Blink Twice. If you remember Blink Twice with Channing Tatum and Naomi, I forget her name, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston actress from last year, that one. It's quite close to this in one sense, and also a bit like Ex Machina, which I know you really like.
Loved that. Absolutely loved it.
Okay. So much so that I have taken to calling this Sex Machina. Because that's kind of the plot of it.
Okay, that's enough. You said enough now.
Okay, I could, if I just said Sex Machina, would that sell you the movie? I think it would.
Yeah.
Right. So, stars Sophie Thatcher from Yellow Jackets, Heretic, quite recently, and The Book of Boba Fett. If you're a Star Wars fan, she was one of the very American Graffiti-like kids on their weird space, scooters or whatever they were. She stars opposite Jack Quaid from The Boys and Star Trek Lower Decks, son of Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid, the only good Nepo baby. I was talking to my friend Calvin about this earlier. Jack Quaid is the only good Nepo baby. Like, of this generation, the only good one. Like, since Paris Hilton. Like, since that era, he's been the only good one. Right. The general gist here is that, and I'm going to have to give you one sort of plot reveal because it's done in the trailer and you can't really talk about it without doing it. There are a couple of pivots and twists, but the first one kind of needs to be done, and the marketing has done this. So, you've got a couple who are going to a remote sort of like lake house. They're going to like hang out with the boyfriend's mate, with Jack Quaid's sort of circle of friends. You've got Megan Suri, who's Kat, who's his sort of bitchy best mate, his platonic but a bit bitchy best mate. Her like very sleazy Russian boyfriend Sergei, played by Rupert Friend. You've got Harvey Guillen, who is finally just getting to play himself here, which is just this really like cool, relaxed, very camp man, like lives and dies in a kimono kind of thing, and his boyfriend as well, whose name I forget offhand. However, no sooner have they arrived than people start to notice there's something not quite right in the air, and during a quiet moment between the two of them at the lake front, Sergei attempts to assault our female lead, Sophie Thatcher, because he seems to think he has a very weird sense of ownership and entitlement, that she is less than human. She, of course, as any woman would in this particular scenario, immediately kills him. Immediately outright just murders him. It's accidental to an extent, and then just kills him in self-defense. And it's then that it comes to light that if you simply say the words, Iris, go to sleep. She shuts down because she's a robot. She is a companion bot, a sex bot, for lack of a better term. And we start to learn that in this sort of present day, it's more or less our present day, but it's just everyone drives electric cars, and everything has an Alexa or a Siri behind it, and everyone has foldable phones, and of course companion bots, which people either use as lovers or even torture victims, as we learn in some cases.
Wow.
There are incels, we're told at one point, who literally buy these things to chain up in their basement and torture. Exactly, because what would happen in the real world if these things were available?
That's true.
Obviously,
that's true.
that would happen. Like, people would do sick things. Right. What then ensues is a cat and mouse game of self-awareness versus human selfishness, effectively, for lack of a better term, as Iris starts to realize and grapple with not so much who she is, but what she is. And if she's not who she thinks she is, what does that make her life? Does she have a soul? Is she less than human? Does she have the worth and entitlement of any living being? Such are the themes of what I'm saying again is effectively Sex Machina. Have a listen. This is early on. This is the couple arriving at the house.
My friends don't hate you.
Cat does.
Yeah, maybe, but Cat hates everybody.
I just don't want to screw everything up.
Come on, Beep Boop, you're not going to screw everything up. Just relax. Don't be all mopey and weird. Just remember to smile and act happy. Okay?
Are there any kind of, I don't know, in-house jokes in regards to the fact that, she's a robot and what he's using it for? Any lubrication jokes or anything like that?
Well, did you notice in the clip that his affectionate pet name for her is Beep Boop?
Beep Boop?
Beep Boop. Yeah.
Oh.
That's his pet name for her. Beep Boop. Yeah. It's actually as well as being like a really good sort of Ex Machina meets Blink Twice like story, it is also a really interesting look at toxic relationships, about the selfish needs of one in a borderline abusive, but otherwise still outright toxic relationship. And as Iris starts to gain this self-awareness, which, believe me, Sophie Thatcher really nails. She kills this. She is so good. I've been on the Thatcher train for a while here because I watched a fair bit of Yellow Jackets, and she was easily my favourite character in Yellow Jackets. But I genuinely think this is a breakout moment, this film. I know that season 3 of Yellow Jackets is only a few weeks away, so she's got that. Jack Quaid's got Heart Eyes in a few weeks, which is an upcoming action movie that he's in. So the pair of them, who are both fantastic here. I mean, it's worth noting there is not a bum note in this cast at all. It is dark, it is twisted, it is hilarious. I cannot wait to see this again. Like, I really, now that I know all the twisted reveals, I kind of want to go back. I'm like, can you see it there? I'm wondering, it's like watching The Sixth Sense again. You're like, well, I know that, but am I going to pick up on a little extra bits I missed if I go back and watch it again? It's very much that kind of film.
That's made me quite excited, actually.
Yeah.
I love the thought of that being ahead of me before I watch it.
Yeah, and also I'm a big Harvey Guillen fan because I love What We Do in the Shadows. I'm a big fan, and also he stole the show from me in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, as the little was he a pug? I think he was a pug in Puss in Boots, a pug or a little cat. Something. I'm a big fan of Harvey Guillen. I narrowly missed out on meeting him at the in the green room at the London Comic Con last year. Him and Nandor, which, believe me, killed me. But he really gets to have some. They're all having fun here. I mean, Rupert Friend as Sergei, just a hoot, just the slimiest Russian git. Really. And you're cheering for him to get murdered. Genuinely, he earns it. He absolutely earns it. Megan Surrey, I quite liked. I couldn't remember where I'd seen her from, but it was from a horror film I'd seen a couple of years ago. Written and directed by Drew Hancock, but produced by Zach Cregger, who gave us Barbarian a year or so ago as well. The Airbnb horror movie that I'm such a fan of, which does seem to have its fans, but also has its detractors. I thought this was terrific. I had such a good time watching this. Like I said, can't wait to see it again. Absolute blast. I hope real breakout star-making platform for both Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid. But again, like I say, not a bad performance in the bunch here. Everyone is such fun.
I can tell how much you enjoyed it with your face lighting up as you're talking about it. So it must clearly have made you laugh.
Look, they had me at Sophie Thatcher is a sex bot, okay?
Well, Companion is out in cinemas from today. Does she have to be recharged, by the way?
Actually, do you know, I don't think that comes up, funnily enough.
Oh, see, that would be one of my questions. Like, what is she running on? Infinite energy?
No, they never show you that she gets recharged or anything.
Well, maybe that's the euphemism in the whole thing.
But yeah, so they're quite upfront about the idea that she is like a sex bot. But it's kind of like the girlfriend experience. Like you can look at this in one sense as a really dark, twisted sci-fi comic take on the first half of the Nora. But
well, it's in cinemas now. If you want to check out Companion, you've heard what it's all about. You can make your own mind up. Right, so that's all the movies for this week. Let's look ahead to next. Is there anything that takes your fancy that you're looking forward to?
Well, let's see. Next week, we've got 2 foreign language ones. We've got Love Hurts and The Seed of the Sacred Fig. Seed of the Sacred Fig is up for Best International Feature at the Academy Awards this year at the Oscars. We've also got The Fire Inside, which is a new underdog sports drama starring Brian Tyree Henry as the coach in this one. We've got a new Will Ferrell, Reese Witherspoon comedy that's actually out on streaming.
Yes.
It's out streaming today. It's streaming on Amazon Prime today. So, you know, we just didn't get to review it in time, so we'll do that next week. It's called You're Cordially Invited. And it is about, I think he is the father of the bride and she is another bride's sister. And they basically go to war with one another to make their respective weddings happen at the expense of the other one. So it looks like good fun. But of course, the biggie for next week is September 5, as it's written. I think we'd say September 5th. But September 5, the true story of the ABC sports team who became the de facto journalists covering the terrorist attack at Munich Games in, I think it's 1972. 72 or 74. But that story, which I hear is fantastic. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, we will see what you think to that on next week's show. That is, of course, all we have time for this time round. We will be back next week. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.